Lowe's knows July 4th savings are worth celebrating. Right now, get up to 40% off select major appliances and get an additional 10% off 2 or more select major appliances. Plus, get 3 Scott's Naturescapes 1.5 cubic foot mulch bags for just $10. These deals are coming in hot. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 7/9. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details. Excludes Alaska and Hawaii.
Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today, we're plunging into a region of, well, breathtaking beauty that holds a powerful paradox: the Texas Hill Country. It's home to rolling hills, serene rivers, those iconic summer camps, yet it lives in this constant, uneasy dance with the formidable power of water, specifically the ever-present threat of flash floods. Now, you've sent us a remarkable stack of sources with really extensive inquiries about a hypothetical major flooding event at Camp Mystic in 2025, raising some understandably serious concerns about camper safety, potential loss of life. So our mission today is to unpack why this region is so uniquely vulnerable, how communities prepare and respond, and crucially, to clarify the reality as of right now, July 6th, 2025. Okay, let's unpack this. So when you think about the hill country, it's just so picturesque. It's almost hard to square that image with this level of flood risk. What is it about the landscape itself? What makes it such a perilous flash flood hotbed? What's the story into those hills?
It's fascinating, actually, because the very geology that makes the hill country so visually stunning is also what makes it ground zero for flash floods. We're talking primarily about Edwards limestone. It's this naturally dense rock, almost like concrete in places, lying just beneath the surface.
Okay.
And on top of that, you have very thin topsoil, really shallow.
Right.
So this unique geology means when you get those intense Texas downpours, the water has almost nowhere to soak in quickly. It just sheets off, runs rapidly across the surface. Then you add in the topography, the steep slopes, the narrow canyons, they act like natural funnels.
Okay, channeling the water.
Exactly, channeling huge volumes of water into these confined riverbeds, sometimes in just minutes. And here's where it gets, well, even more complicated. Rivers like the Guadalupe, the Llano, even though the runoff into them is fast, the rivers themselves, once they leave the steepest parts, often have low gradients.
Meaning they flatten out?
Right, the riverbeds flatten considerably. So the water, moving fast initially, suddenly slows down its downstream progress. And with more water pouring in from upstream, it basically has nowhere to go but up, vertically.
Leading to those dramatic, rapid rises we hear about.
Precisely. There's even an informal term folks use, the Palo Duro effect. It really captures the region's danger. Imagine, just a few inches of rain in the watershed can trigger feet of rising water in the river channel, almost instantaneously.
Wow.
Turning a calm creek into, a raging torrent. That immediate surge is the defining characteristic of hill country flash floods.
So it's basically built on this giant, sloping, sort of non-absorbent slab that just funnels water straight into rivers that then back up. That paints a very clear picture of the geological side. What about the weather? What triggers these events from the sky?
Well, the direct cause is always intense, localized rainfall. That's the trigger. Particularly in late spring and summer, think June, July, August. Texas often gets these slow-moving storm systems packed with moisture from the Gulf. These systems can just stall out, dumping enormous amounts of rain over a relatively small area in a really short time. It just overwhelms the landscape's capacity. We also often see thunderstorms training. Yeah, it's where new storm cells form and move repeatedly over the exact same spot, one after another, like cars on a train track.
Okay. So it just keeps hitting the same area again and again.
Exactly. Dramatically amplifying the rainfall totals and the flood risk.
And these impacts, they aren't just theoretical, right? They hit communities hard. The Guadalupe River, for instance, flows right through towns like Kerrville, Hunt, Ingram, Comfort. Then down near Canyon Lake into New Braunfels. And even bigger cities like Austin, San Antonio, they're not immune either. You get significant urban flooding, partly because of all the concrete, the impervious surfaces.
Absolutely. That impermeable cover in urban areas just adds another layer to the problem, speeding up runoff even more.
Which is why the National Weather Service is just so vital here. They issue those flash flood warnings for areas like Kerr County, Travis County, around Austin, Comal County. And those alerts are absolutely paramount for safety. But like you said, the sheer speed, it can still catch people completely off guard.
It really can. Even with warnings, the rate of rise can be astonishing.
Let's pivot a bit to one of the hill country's most cherished traditions, summer camps. They have this incredible, unique relationship with rivers like the Guadalupe, But it seems like a vulnerable one, too. You totally see why they'd pick those riverfront locations for swimming, canoeing, all that. Yeah. But it puts them squarely in the path of these Texas flooding summer camp scenarios we hear about.
It's quite a dynamic, isn't it? And these camps, many have been there for generations, adapting over decades. Camp Mystic is a perfect example. It's a really prominent, historic, all-girls camp, established way back in 1921.
Wow, over a century.
Yeah, nestled right there on the Guadalupe River near Hunt, Texas. It represents this incredible legacy, generations of campers, specific programs. Figures like director Janie Hunt, Sarah Marsh Camp Mystic, they're part of that long history.
And it's not the only one, right?
Oh, no. There are other really well-known camps nearby, like Camp La Junta, Camp Waldemar, Heart of the Hills Camp, many situated right along those same riverbanks.
Okay, and this brings us straight to those specific inquiries you sent us. Lots of questions about general flooding impacting properties along the Guadalupe, but also really delving into these very specific, quite frankly, alarming hypothetical scenarios. A major event in 2025, concerns about missing campers, even fatalities, specifically at Camp Mystic. And I want to state this very clearly for everyone listening. As of today, July 6, 2025, no major fatal event matching those descriptions has occurred at Camp Mystic or in that immediate area.
And that clarification is crucial. But the nature of the inquiries, the detail in them, it does highlight a very real underlying anxiety. An anxiety rooted in the known potential of the river. It's vital, though, to understand the safety measures these camps have. Camps like Mystic, they have incredibly robust safety protocols. These aren't taken lightly.
Like evacuation plans?
Exactly. Well-established evacuation plans, often moving campers to designated higher ground on their own properties, which can be quite extensive, or even moving them off-site entirely if necessary. Staff go through rigorous training in flood preparedness, emergency response drills. They're constantly monitoring the Guadalupe River flow data, weather forecasts. Plus, they're in direct communication loops with the National Weather Service, local emergency management, and news outlets like KXAN in Austin, KVUE, San Antonio's KC-12 for any alerts.
Okay, so they're watching it constantly.
Constantly. It's part of the daily operational reality during storm season.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because while those specific nightmare scenarios you were asking about, thankfully, haven't materialized, the threat itself is absolutely real. It's not hypothetical. And that intense focus on prevention and preparedness is precisely why those worst-case outcomes are avoided.
That's the key point.
These robust and likely very costly safety measures, reflected perhaps in things like the Camp Mystic cost.
Yeah.
They are the reason that mass casualty events at these established camps, despite the region's extreme vulnerability, are thankfully incredibly rare.
It's a constant state of vigilance and investment in safety infrastructure and training.
So shifting gears slightly, when flooding does strike, maybe not at a camp, but in the region generally, and it does happen, who steps in? How does that whole response system actually work?
It's a truly complex, multi-layered effort starting right at the local level. In a place like Kerr County, the immediate response comes from local first responders, fire departments, police, EMS, and critically, the County Office of Emergency Management, the OEM. They coordinate the local response.
Issuing evacuation orders, that kind of thing.
Yes, evacuation orders, road closures, setting up shelters, coordinating rescues, providing immediate relief. Local news, like Kerrville news outlets, becomes absolutely vital for getting that information out quickly. Then you have the state level kicking in.
The state government.
Right. The Texas governor, currently Greg Abbott, plays a central coordinating role for state resources. His Division of Emergency Management, TDEM, activates. They can deploy state assets, personnel, equipment, sometimes even the Texas National Guard if needed.
Okay.
And there's a contingency, too. If the governor happens to be out of state during a major emergency, the lieutenant governor, Dan Patrick, steps in as acting governor to manage the response.
Got it. So local, then state. What about bigger disasters?
For major disasters that overwhelm state and local capacity, federal assistance becomes critical. That's where FEMA comes in.
FEMA, right. Federal Emergency Management Agency.
Exactly. They provide significant funding for relief efforts. That includes individual assistance for residents, think grants for temporary housing, essential needs for Texas flood victims, and also public assistance, which is funding to help rebuild damaged public infrastructure like roads, bridges, utilities. They work hand in glove with state and local officials.
But there's another piece too, isn't there? The volunteer groups.
Oh, absolutely crucial. The non-governmental organizations, or NGOs, they are often indispensable on the ground.
Like the Cajun Navy.
The Cajun Navy is a prime example, famous for their swift boat rescues in flooded neighborhoods, often arriving with their own boats before official resources can get everywhere. And you have groups focused on feeding people World Central Kitchen, Mercy Chefs setting up mobile kitchens, providing hot meals to displaced residents and exhausted first responders.
That's amazing.
They truly fill critical gaps, often operating with incredible speed and flexibility, driven by pure compassion. They're a vital part of the overall response fabric.
And threading through all of this local, state, federal NGOs is communication. Reliable information seems absolutely paramount during a flood.
It's life-saving. As we touched on, local news stations KXAN, KVUE, KSA-12 provide continuous updates, vital warnings, road closures, shelter information.
They often have those Texas flooding map overlays, too, showing affected areas.
Yes, exactly. Showing where is the flooding in Texas, what part of Texas is flooding, and sadly, if necessary, they are also the ones confirming information like a Texas flood death toll.
And always the National Weather Service, with those foundational flash flood warning alerts.
Their alerts are the bedrock of the warning system. That constant Texas flood update flow is key to guiding people's decisions.
So looking longer term after the immediate crisis passes.
While recovery is often a long, difficult process. Rebuilding homes, businesses, infrastructure, it can take months, even years.
I can imagine.
But these experiences, however devastating, also tend to foster incredible community resilience. People come together, and often lessons are learned. Disasters can lead to improvements, better warning systems, stricter building codes in flood-prone areas, more robust evacuation plans, enhanced public awareness campaigns. That focus on building back stronger is key. You might even hear historical references like Texas flooding summer camp Mystic Trump, related to federal declarations or assistance during past recovery efforts. It's part of that longer-term picture.
This whole deep dive really underscores that inherent tension, doesn't it? That continuous vigilance required in the Texas Hill Country. It's this place of undeniable, almost magnetic beauty, but it's locked in this constant, delicate dialogue with the sheer power of water. And for institutions like Camp Mystic and the others nestled right there in the floodplains, vigilance isn't just some policy on a shelf. It feels more like an existential requirement.
It absolutely is. It has to be woven into their very existence.
And while those specific, very detailed, tragic scenarios that prompted some of your inquiries were, thankfully, not reflective of actual events as of July 6, 2025, they really serve as this powerful reminder, a reminder of the very real fears born from historical floods and the terrifyingly rapid, destructive potential of those hill country rivers.
The potential is always there.
And it seems the coordinated efforts, local, state, federal, and those incredible NGOs, that whole system is really the strongest defense against that potential becoming reality.
It's the best strategy we have: preparedness, rapid response, and community support. This raises an important question. Given the inherent, really unchangeable geological vulnerability of regions like the hill country, how does a society, how do we balance that deep human desire to live in, to work in, to enjoy such beautiful but high-risk areas? Balance that with the constant, often immense investment required for preparedness, for response, for resilience. What stands out to you about that balance?
Lowe's knows July 4th savings are worth celebrating. Right now, get up to 40% off select major appliances and get an additional 10% off 2 or more select major appliances. Plus, get 3 Scott's Naturescapes 1.5 cubic foot mulch bags for just $10. These deals are coming in hot. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 7/9. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details. Excludes Alaska and Hawaii.